But yeah, if you guys want to watch yourselves be on TV, I mean on YouTube, you can click that link that I sent.
It's like, it's basically TV.
It's better than TV.
All right, I see us. We are live.
Hey.
Let's get started. Okay.
Oh god, double vision. Okay, muting the YouTube. Okay.
Perfect. Anyway, hello everyone, and welcome to another discussion about Savannah College of Art and Design. Today I'm joined by Sarah Ikegami, Catherine Mintmeyer, Starla Pritchard, and Grant Whitslett will be back later, we hope. His computer has been having issues, so fingers crossed, we'll see. We'll all be talking about what it's like to be animation majors at SCAD and all of the slavery that entails. So I'll be asking some questions to get everybody's perspective, and as always, after the topics that we go through, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions, you can post them in the chat section over on the sidebar on YouTube. And I think that's it. Cool, so we'll get started. I will have my guests introduce themselves. You guys can tell us who you are, when you attended SCAD, and what you're currently working on. So let's start with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ikegami. I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated SCAD in 2013 at the very end of the year, so November. And we're currently working for a company. We do pre-employment assessment, so I do little animations showing scenarios for people who are applying for jobs, pretty much, in 3D and 2D.
And when did you go to SCAD, or did you say that?
Oh, I went from 2010 to 2013, November.
That's it. Coolness. Sorry, I'm like trying to do three things at once.
No, that's
Pay
cool.
attention. Anyway, Starla.
Hello, it's me. I'm Starla Pritchard. I went to SCAD from 2010 to 2014. I forgot the other questions.
Oh, when did you go to SCAD, and what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so what am I not working on right now? So I have my day job, 9 to 5. I work in an office. I do something similar to Sarah. I actually make art for standardized testing. Basically, if you're taking a test at the end of the school year and there's a picture of a gerbil in it, I have to do the gerbil. So it's like illustrations, animations, simulations, all the shuns. And then I'm also doing freelance animation 2D for Austin Film Festival. That's one of the things I'm working on. I'm also doing character designs for some indie games that my friends are making. And I also have my webcomic, which updates once or twice a week, depending on things.
I feel it. And Catherine.
I'm Catherine Mintmeyer. I went to SCAD with Sarah and Starla. I graduated in 2014. I'm currently living in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I'm working for Oklahoma State University, actually doing something somewhat similar to what Sarah and Starla do, but I am basically working on videos for the online students of the business school.
Nice.
So
And
some
then
of
there's
it's
Grant.
animation and some of it's just creating graphic assets.
Nice. Working for a university is pretty cool. And then our last guest, Grant, who is our current student also.
He will be missed.
He will be missed. He should be doing homework anyway.
I mean, he just
finishing
sent
up his senior year.
He just sent a picture to the Facebook chat of his computer inside the refrigerator, so we'll see where that goes, I guess.
Good. There's that. Stay tuned. Yeah, fun tidbit. These ladies here were some of the first people I got to know at SCAD, because when I walked out of Turner House with my roommate to go down to the cafeteria the first night, I yelled at you, Sarah. I was just like, "Hey, who are you? Please eat with us."
You were wearing the Sonic shirt, and I was like, "Cool shirt." I remember this.
Sonic the Hedgehog forever. Oh my gosh.
I just remember that I had gotten food at the cafeteria and I was looking around like a lost duckling or something, and I just heard someone say, "Hey, you, come sit with us," and it was Lisa.
Yeah, that's pretty much my approach. I'm just like, you need to be my friend right now. I am so lonely and afraid. Yes.
I blame Sarah for all the friends I have, because she latched onto me within 15 seconds, and she was like, "Here, look at these people," and I was like, "Yay, give me all of your friends."
So when you guys came to SCAD,
know.
did you know that you wanted to be animation majors right off the bat, or was it like after some of the introduction classes we had, you declared your major?
Who wants to go first?
Sarah, introduce yourself first.
I think my internet's. Hold on, 1 second. Sorry.
Okay. Well,
sorry, Lisa. I'm lagging. What did you say?
Oh, I just asked if when you went to SCAD, if you knew already that you wanted to be an animation major, or if you decided that a little bit later.
When I first went to SCAD, I was torn between animation and VisFX, actually, but after taking the first 3 animation classes, I decided to do animation. So that's where I am.
What about you guys?
I definitely went into it thinking that I wanted to do animation, and for a while, freshman and sophomore year, I kind of was a little bit flexible with that idea, but in the end, I decided that I did want to do animation.
And what about you, Sarah?
Yeah, for me it was the stars in your eyes dream that every child has. It's like, I'm gonna be an animator and I'm gonna work for Disney. And so it was kind of like that. But actually, once I rode the animation path all the way through, but I ended up taking a lot of sequential and storyboarding classes, and that's where I kind of nestled in. It's like, okay, this is the thing that I like. I like animation, but I really like storyboarding, so I'm gonna focus more on that. And so I ended up minoring in storyboarding. So it was kind of, I knew, but I didn't know, I like kind of honed in on a more specific interest once I started and finished school. So.
And what are some of the first classes that you get to take as an animation student, or I guess in general, what do you have to look forward to the beginning of your SCAD experience?
Lots of charcoal drawings.
Yeah, the first class that you take in the animation building is called action analysis, and it's pretty much a just your life drawing class.
I can't believe nobody in the first animation video, I can't believe nobody mentioned Troy.
Oh,
no. Yeah. They didn't.
The legend.
How could they?
He's one of the first teachers you'll probably have, Troy or Weber. They're the 2D teachers, but they're amazing. They're great. Troy's a cowboy. Troy's an actual cowboy. He used to work for Disney. Like, he owns horses. So.
He's the coolest.
The foundations classes that you guys started with, that we all started with, did you think that they were really helpful, or were they kind of tedious because you already liked to draw?
It was kind of back and forth. It really, really depends on your professor.
Yeah,
that's true. I had some really nice professors for all of my foundations classes, and I know that some people had professors who were freaking unbearable and complained about it all the time. I'm like, my professor's okay, so I'm okay with this. But I know that kind of every professor has a different way of approaching things, especially in the foundations courses.
Yeah, and I personally AP'd out of the first drawing and the first 2D design class, which I actually liked because I was able to get to all of the animation classes by the end of the year instead of my freshman year just being foundations, which was nice. So.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That's super helpful. Yeah. Either getting ahead in classes or the fact that you can leave a little bit early and save some cash.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even if you want to take a minor, you don't have to worry about timing your minor to match your major, which is good too.
How were foundations for you? Sorry.
I got a lot out of them. I really liked pretty much all of them, and I think other than the classes themselves, it's really great to get pushed together with a bunch of students from all around the country, and they're all trying to get into different fields that aren't necessarily what you'll be getting into later, so it kind of acts as a big social mixer for the university as well.
If I can name drop a professor, my color theory teacher, who I think was their color theory teacher too, is Stephanie Joseph, and she's amazing. So it would be our color theory class normally, so the study of color, but all of the weekly projects, you were allowed to do whatever you wanted. So like I got to do some of my first like animations at SCAD in my foundations class with Stephanie Joseph. She's amazing. So.
Oh, I'd heard about that. Yeah, that some teachers were more open to like getting it into your major, which I think was more helpful for people who weren't going to be doing anything painting related ever again.
Absolutely. So I made some animations and like character designs for during my foundation classes based around color theory principles, and it was awesome. And I got to work in like teams with other people too, which is really important for animation, so that was good too.
So what year were you guys in when you were finally able to take your first animation class? Did you get to do it as a freshman, or did you have to wait till sophomore year?
I was a freshman, but I was on an early track, so.
Yeah, I think technically your first class, that is the anim number, is action analysis. That's like anim 101 or something. It's not technically an animation course, it's a gesture drawing course, but it teaches you a lot of the principles and kind of introduces you to a lot of stuff you'll be using when you actually sit down in front of the light table and they say go. But usually, if you're on the normal track, you don't have any AP credits, your first class will be Principles of 2D, and I took that my first quarter freshman year, like most people do, I think.
Sophomore year?
Sophomore.
Sophomore year, yes, I'm stupid.
And what about
you?
It
was sophomore for me as well.
Let's see, trying to think of other questions that I had. I'm also trying to communicate with Grant to see if maybe he wants to do this over his phone, because Laura was able to. I think if he has a smartphone, he can just like stare at it awkwardly and be like, hey, let me tell you about animation.
He's a close-up of me.
So let's see. What parts of animation do they cover in the curriculum? Is it, I think everybody's mostly familiar with animated films or cartoons, but is there anything else that they cover?
Actually, some of the first 3D classes you take are going to be based around modeling and lighting, and you also get some rigging classes, which are not the actual like making the character move part, but kind of more building your scene. And I know a lot of kids who, like, once they started doing that, they're like, oh, this is actually where I want to focus instead of the movement parts. So
and you can specialize your courses a lot depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where it'll say a course on, like, your courses you need to graduate, but usually you can substitute one for another if you're trying to go a specific route, which is nice.
Yeah, you can just talk to your advisor and like say, I want to do this, and then they'll say, then you should take this, 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 and this, and then you can, and they'll like tell you what you can substitute and stuff you still need, etc.
Yeah, did you guys follow the rubric that you get from your academic advisor pretty rigidly? Because I know I did. I was just like, this is what happens now, this is what we do next, and that saved me a lot of trouble. I kind of wanted to know if you guys did the same thing.
Yeah, for me, I took a lot of classes, like I said, I took a lot of sequential classes, and so that used up pretty much all of my electives. And so I also ended up taking animation and stuff a little out of order, just because it's like, okay, well, I have to take life drawing for this, but I also have to take it for this, and this has to go before this, and then I was just kind of like throwing courses at the wall and like trying to figure out exactly what would work, but eventually it worked out. Like, they're pretty flexible, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably took too many electives too early, but it all worked out in the end. But I will say I probably would have saved myself some stress if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, I did the opposite. I took a lot of my required classes early, and then I left a lot of room for electives towards senior year, and that was awesome. So
that does sound really pretty good.
It sucked at the beginning because you're taking a lot of studios, but then later on when you're like, oh, I'm going to take this for fun 2D animation class that doesn't really like count towards my GPA and it's awesome, then it was good.
So if you could do an overview of like the course progression, what are some of the classes that you start with, and then how does it lead up to senior project? I won't make you name like 4 years worth of courses, but what are some things that people can expect?
Well, one of your freshman year like prereq classes is going to be CMPA, which half of it is going to be really boring because you're just going to be learning Photoshop.
Take advanced CMPA and not regular CMPA.
Yeah, advanced CMPA. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And towards the end, you're going to touch Maya for the first time. And when you touch Maya for the first time, you'll understand a lot about 3D. The pain.
I think that's one of the biggest differences between the regular CMPA and then the advanced is you don't have to touch Maya if you do the regular one, but
Yeah.
we had to do this full-fledged animation in just a couple weeks, and I was like, this is why I chose sequential art.
And then after that, you do take your gesture drawing class, which is action analysis. So that's towards the end of your freshman year. Then you have principles of 2D, which is you do 2D animation. It's usually really basic. Like a lot of times it's just like you don't color in anything. It's a lot more about how things move and how to keep shapes consistent. And that also depends on what professor you have. A lot of them are more like acting based, and a lot of them are more like technical based. Troy is a lot more technical, and John Weber is a lot more acting, just because that's how they were professionally.
Yeah. Sarah, you took Troy, and then Catherine, I'm not sure about you, but I took Weber, and so we never had
I
to
took
do.
Troy.
Okay, so I can talk from Weber's perspective at least. I know that some of the stuff we did was I think everybody at first does the bouncing ball. That's like the first thing you do. And then
you go out into the parking lot and you.
Yeah.
Troy
You just
throws
throw
a tennis ball and he throws a bowling ball and you watch him bounce.
And in my case, you watch them break part of the sidewalk off, and then you take part of it and run away with it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so we did like, I can't remember all of the projects we did, but there was one that was like a head hit animation. So you design a very simple character, and then you have like a brick or something fly in from off screen and whack them in the face, and then like it's supposed to teach about anticipation and reaction and force being applied to things. And then Troy did like the flag waving and stuff.
You do the flag, then you do the flour sack, then you do, I think you do a walk cycle and a run cycle, maybe?
Yeah, we did that too.
I think he's added things though recently. I think they're different now. But
one thing about it though is that when you're coming in, you are required to take principles of 2D and principles of 3D, even if you think you're really sure which one you want to do. And a lot of people end up changing their course because of that, because a lot of people come in thinking they want to do one, but when they try it out, they actually really like the other.
Yeah. But I think you have to take 2D first, if I remember right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because 2D is a lot more foundational to the 3D stuff.
Yeah.
And the 2D does not involve Maya. And Maya is scary.
They still do the 2D stuff pencil and paper like we did, right?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
With the other group, I asked them if they thought there was more of a divide between 2D and 3D, like do more people choose one or the other, or is it pretty straight down the middle? What do you guys think?
I would say in my class, and this was like an off class, so because we were like slightly off, so most kids were transfer students, but I feel like a lot of them were 2D actually. So, but lots of them came from a graphic design background because they were transfer students, so that might have been why.
I always thought it was split up pretty evenly, but I also didn't really pay that much attention to it.
Yeah, in my experience, I noticed that like most of the people I hung out with were on the 3D path, but that's just because those are the people that you're seeing all the time, because they're in all of your 3D classes. And I'm sure that like I ended up sticking more with 3D, but it depends on how much you want to specialize, because you can take classes in both sides.
Yeah. I definitely did. Especially like if you have room in your electives, that's a good way to peek into other things, because honestly I feel like the animation department, like the required classes, are things that'll teach you the basics, but if you want to become really good at any particular thing, the electives are where you're going to become really good at the thing. Like you can take your basic 3D animation class, but there's not really another you animate in 3D class until much later. So if you don't fill that time in with more you animate in 3D or you animate in 2D classes, then you might not have the experience you need to be a 2D or 3D animator or a modeler or a lighter, because most of those you find in electives, I think. I mean, correct me if anyone had a different experience, but that's one thing I noticed.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that.
Is there any kind of a rivalry at all, or do you think people are over it? They're just like, okay, you're 2D, we're 3D.
The rivalry is not 2D and 3D, but it is Troy and Weber.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. That is very true.
That's totally true.
That's one thing, if you're in the animation, it's not like an actual angry rivalry, but there are, I think they still have them, the Troy versus Weber games, where it's just like...
if there's any videos of that on YouTube, you should link to it, Lisa.
Yeah, it's just
What's
like
that?
a field day. The Troy and Weber games.
Uh-oh. I don't think I can run audio through it, but maybe I can look it up.
Just
It's
make sure the
basically-
link is on the page and people will go to it.
Yeah.
It's basically a field day, and it's just like whoever wins the most games wins that year. So
Very silly.
Oh, that's funny, because I think Grant was the one who actually told me all about this, so wish he was
Yeah.
here right now, because I think he had a lot to say about that. Let me see.
Yeah, I
So
would
what am I
say-
searching for? It's Troy.
Troy and Weber.
Let's
As far as
see.
2D and 3D go, it's less of a rivalry and more you got to kind of figure out which professors you want to like have as like people to look
Yeah.
at your stuff. So
Weber is more of a character animator and Troy is more of an effects animator.
I'm not finding the video. Oh,
I
well.
hope somebody has it.
It exists somewhere.
Somewhere in the vast internet, yeah.
On my old phone, I had some footage from it, but I don't know where those files are now. They're buried in the computer somewhere.
No, I lost my place. What was I going to say?
You were asking about the rivalry.
Right. So I guess it doesn't seem like people are that petty, but I guess
No.
anyway, people would want to adhere more to the different ways of thinking that their teachers have. I don't know if there's something as much with that in our department because there's not as much of a divide. It's not like you
Yeah.
only take this professor's classes and the others, but that's funny that it ends up being that way.
mhm. Well,
Yeah.
and also with the 2D and 3D too, it's tough because both take a lot of time. So it's a lot of like choosing which route. I mean, you don't have to choose one. Like I took a lot of advanced 2D classes, even though I was trying
Yeah.
to specialize more in 3D. But like, especially like later on when you do your senior film, at that point you'd have to decide how you want to make your senior film, and your senior film is a year and a quarter of your life. So it's a lot of, you have to figure out at that point which route you want to take, and then a lot of your electives leading up to your senior film, it's best, or while you're having your senior film, to kind of route yourself in a way that'll help you think what you want to do career-wise. So
Oh, I know something I didn't ask the other group is there an aspect of animation that's like universally liked by some people or by some people, that's not what universally means. Universally liked and then universally hated, you know, for instance, is everybody like doing one part of animation, like doing the lighting, and does everybody hate doing rigging? Because I think everybody hates doing rigging from what I
Most
understand.
people are really frustrated by rigging, but some people really like it.
Mhm.
oh yeah, no, I loved rigging, but it's a lot more like, I guess,
Technical?
Technical. Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
there's
very
coding and-
it's very code heavy and
Yeah, it's pretty much programming.
yeah, but I took a programming game design elective, so that's where I am.
How much overlap is there between animation coursework and then game design, or are they really two different entities?
They're separate classes and separate professors. Some of the starting classes are similar, like the model. I know that the modeling and lighting class that animation has, I forgot what it's called, 3D modeling and lighting or something. It's really similar to another game design class where they learn modeling and lighting. But then after that, it really splits. Because I think a lot of the game design classes, they start with like board game design and everything, and we do more of the movement, which is a shame because towards the end I worked on a lot of like student games just because I was friends with the people, but otherwise you don't get a lot of interaction, which is, I mean, the game design things are fun to do. So.
I feel like animation is one of those majors where you end up getting to know everybody because of how many people you have to recruit for your senior film.
That's fair. And a lot of it too, like it honestly helps just being in the same building as like the vis effects and motion media and game design kids, because a lot of times I would just meet people by like working next to them on the weekend. So
yeah, I guess we haven't talked about this. Can one of you guys describe how Monty is set up and like where the different majors reside? Describe the dim, dark coffin factory.
It is a coffin factory. That was actually what I was going to start with. It is dark and is devoid of hope for the most part.
It's a place of horror and wonders.
They painted polka dots on the inside towards the end of my time there. It did not help.
and they took away the couches too.
And Monty Jesus, apparently. Monty Jesus is apparently not there anymore.
What? They can't take away Monty Jesus.
Apparently they did. Should we talk about Monty Jesus?
Yes, somebody please tell the legend of Monty Jesus.
I should not tell it because I actually, coming clean here, I do not know where Monty Jesus used to be. I just heard the rumors, but so someone else should talk about Monty Jesus.
I think it was a year after we were there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know any more about it than you do.
Well, there was because SCAD, they cycle out the art that they have in all the buildings, and there was a picture there that resembled Jesus, and he was just on the wall, and so people started calling him Monty Jesus, and during midterms and finals, people would just leave like Post-it notes praying to Monty Jesus to help them finish their finals, and so like the whole wall would be like covered in sticky notes.
Yeah, so it's like, oh no, the server just froze. Pray to Monty Jesus so you don't lose your files.
That's another thing about Monty is that technical disasters are a risk.
Yeah,
yes, very.
Save your work all the time. Do that anyway, even if you're at home.
900
Back up
times.
Everything everywhere.
Yeah, there was a horror story that one of my professors told us about how a guy was working on a senior film, and in the span of one day, he had his stuff backed up on 2 external hard drives, one in his house, one in his backpack, and it was backed up on the school computers. So the school computers, something went wrong, his files weren't there. On his way home, he had his external in his backpack. He flipped over the handlebars of his bike. Everything fell out. It shattered. He gets home. He's been robbed. And his 3rd external is not there.
You're joking.
No, that is an actual story that Maurer told us, like, every year. He was like, back up your files because this happened. And I don't think he made it. I think he failed that class because it's like, all of these things happened and I couldn't finish. Please be easy on my grade. And they were like, if you were in the industry, you would get fired.
So this is why you need
Jesus.
Monty Jesus. This is why you need Monty Jesus.
There he is.
Oh my gosh. He's really a thing. Oh, no,
Did you just Google search Monty Jesus?
Yeah, there he is.
So good. I'm so glad that this is a thing that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard of people leaving like those little electric tea light candles on the painting underneath it.
Yeah.
And like leaving offerings of bags of Skittles.
One of the important things about Monty is that it's one of the only SCAD work buildings that's open 24 hours.
Yeah. That's really important.
Also occupied 24 hours.
And I heard that in the old days it used to not be open 24 hours, but people would sneak in and like stay behind to work.
Like they would hide.
Yeah.
Well, any building is 24 hours if you hide behind the stairs.
Yeah.
People did that freshman year to stay in the foundations buildings.
So yeah, Monty is 24 hours. So even if you're not an animation major, but you need your project done, it's open.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people during finals would just be at Monty, even if they were not in the multimedia majors or whatever they are, the 3D things.
I've heard since we've been gone, the new hangout is the new illustration building. Like all the people in the upper part of historic district, they all go to Hayman's Hall because it's like the closest, next biggest place.
Monty's pretty far.
Yeah, Monty's
nobody's mentioned that. Monty is in the creepiest side of the train tracks ever.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's the furthest south classroom building.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think it's the furthest south building, period, aside from the terrace.
Well, yeah.
Which is dorms. And we lived there.
Yeah. Good times.
So yeah, if you're going to Monty on the weekend and you don't have a car, then expect like an hour-long bus ride with the SCAD buses, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or because it's open 24 hours, if you need to get home at 2 a.m. and the only one is the SCAD bus that stops at every single building, you're going to be on the SCAD bus that stops at every single building for a while. Because Monty's like the first/last stop.
That's a good point, because most of the dormitories and all the other things are way up here. Like, as a freshman especially, you're stuck in this area, or if you're a sophomore at O House, you're over here on Liberty. So you're going to have to go all the way
It's
down
42nd,
here.
yeah. Or 52nd.
Let's see if I can do the, drag the
like,
little guy over.
And during the nighttime, you do not want to walk that.
Oh,
It
no,
is-
yeah.
No.
It's not a good area.
People get mugged over
Yeah.
there constantly, so do not do that.
But you can live in the Monty dorms if you're going to be
Yeah.
there all the time
I
anyways.
forgot they made it into a dorm.
Yeah,
Live
that's
there and
something
never escape.
didn't talk about in the other group. Tell me your guys' opinion if you think it was a good idea to make the Montgomery dorms, or is it the worst thing ever?
Oh, no, it's definitely a good idea.
It's a good idea, except that I know that there are a lot of people who have been getting stuck out there who don't go to Monty, and that's
Oh,
bad.
that's bad.
Yeah.
If
like,
you are in a major that works at Monty and has classes there, then it's really good.
but if
But
you're,
if you're like a sequential major and the only building you're going to be using is on the complete opposite side of town and it makes no sense to be over there, then maybe not live at Montgomery House because that's silly.
Mhm. I think they have like 2 cafeterias there, and then there's Montgomery Hall, so and they have a
looks
parking
a
garage.
little bit stark on the outside, but it's actually really nice on the inside, and it seems like there's a lot of amenities.
And they have those beanbag chairs.
Yeah,
They're great.
they do. They have some nice stuff in there, actually.
Mhm.
They have like a game room, and they have little studio rooms that people can use. Seems pretty cool.
The only other downside, though, is I think it's 3 people to a dorm, and 2 of the people share a room. So if you're kind of like I want to fly solo towards, yeah, so that's good for that.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody listening right now, I think they didn't set up the dorm correctly. Like, they had the intention of it being like a full kitchenette, but then when they decided that they wanted to have the cafeteria with the meal plan, they only gave you like a really big sink instead of
I didn't
an
know it was
actual
a
kitchenette.
kitchenette.
That's what I heard.
I
I
only
didn't know
went
it's
in one
supposed
of
to
the
have a
rooms
kitchen
there
over.
once. But it did seem to be some kind of situation like that. The floor plan was pretty strange.
I never actually went inside
It
of
was
Monty
like
House.
sink and cabinets, but nothing else, as far as the kitchen goes.
Not a place that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
I mean, even
but
as an
if
animation
you live
major,
there,
I
you
think I would
probably
be
have a
so
meal plan.
upset with like having to stay in that one area. Like, I would want to do anything to leave, but that's just me.
Yeah,
Well,
all 3 of us lived at the Terrace, which
Which is
was
Pretty close.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
close
great.
enough. We had a full kitchen, so it was small, but we had them. So
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question in the chat that I realized was one of my next questions anyway. What types of software does SCAD offer to you to use, and what things do you have to buy? Like, what kind of materials are you expected to purchase for yourself?
Well, unless you're like doing hand-drawn 2D, which later on, I mean, early on you're gonna need to, but later on you're probably gonna be doing lots of things digitally. You don't have a lot of like actual materials to buy. I know that you have to buy like reams of animation paint at the beginning, but then like later when you're in 3D, you don't really need to buy that much because lots of people who did 2D digitally, they bought their own like Wacom pen tablet, like pens to work with the Cintiqs that they have there. But they also have those available for rent as long as you like return them within 24 hours, so you don't need to buy them if you don't have money for them, or if you're not planning on hand drawing all that much, or if you have your own tablet.
I definitely
and, like,
have a leftover brick of animation paper that I never use.
Yeah. And then like the textbooks you have to buy, there's a few in freshman year and they're cheap. Like there's like the like
you
animation.
can buy them on Amazon.
for like $30 a piece, and then they're ones that you're going to want to keep. Like I reference back
Oh yeah.
all the time, so it's worth it. They're not that expensive. They're not like the $200 math books. They're like $30 animation books that you can, So
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
actually, as far as like physical materials go, it's not that expensive. For programs, SCAD has all the programs on their computers. Some of them, like all of the Autodesk software, so Maya, Motion Builder, Max, all of those are free if you have a .edu address. So you get like a student version, and the only thing that's different about a student version than a normal version is it just says like you can't sell any of the stuff you make with this.
Yeah.
But then other programs like Toon Boom, and I think Adobe doesn't even have free student things now. They used to, but I don't think they do. So
But
you just
I think
you can get
SCAD has a student
discount.
license for you now.
Oh, they do. Oh, that's
think
good. I know that it's been like going in and out. Like for one time, I know one year it was just like you only got it for a year and that was it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
their
think
deals
you
keep
can.
changing.
I think you can get CS3 or lower indefinitely or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CS2 I believe is free for everybody, period, ever. That's just a thing that Adobe did.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of it though, you gotta be using the SCAD equipment if you want to use
Yeah.
the programs for free, which is a good and a bad thing because, I mean, it's nice because they provide all of the equipment and computers and software at Monty, and there's usually classrooms open all the time so you can work there for 24 hours a day, and there's no windows so you don't realize that time's passing. But like when you get out of school and you realize that, oh yeah, Maya is like $3,000 a year. I guess that was a good deal when you can use their software on their computers. So there's a give and take.
Yeah,
My
I don't know if
advice
the
is to
same.
learn
Oh,
Blender
go ahead,
as soon as
Catherine.
possible.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say you mainly do Maya at SCAD, but it is worth your while to learn how to use Blender because it's free.
Yeah.
And it does pretty much everything that Maya does.
I think the good thing to do, though, is to buy software while you still have your student discount. That was something somebody let me know, is like, wait until your last quarter of your senior year or the last year that you're at SCAD, so it'll be the most current version, but use that last little ounce of your student discount to buy
the one thing
the
about
Adobe
that
stuff.
Yeah, the one thing about that now though is Autodesk and Harmony, so Toon Boom, which are the two main companies you'll probably be doing things for, they're subscription only now. So you have to have like an active .edu at like email address to be able to like use them every month. So it sucks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think about subscription-based stuff.
Yeah.
Subscriptions!
Yeah, because what I did, like, my last quarter is I bought CS6 Suite because I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
there is no way I'm jumping to Creative Cloud and paying monthly because I will pay for it, like, several times over the course of my lifetime. But I'm going to wait it out until they finally make my stuff obsolete, so we'll see.
You got this.
Oh, another note that I wanted to like warn people about the Wacom pens, because I had done some animation senior film color work in Montgomery. While pens are available to be rented from the cage downstairs, you have to have a class currently in the building.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when I was in CMPA, I had a class in Montgomery, so they're like, okay, we see you're on this file, you can have this, but when I came back the next quarter and I had no classes there, they're like, get out.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. So.
Yeah, they really cracked down on that.
I guess that's one thing to talk about too is the cage. It's this area on the first floor, and there's a lot of things you can use to rent. Like they have video cameras there, they have motion capture equipment, they have sound equipment, they have like board games and video games for the game design majors, but you can check them out anyways. And like the Wacom pens and Wacom tablets. So like a lot of like the physical equipment you might like ever possibly need, you can just rent, and as long as you return it before whatever XYZ amount of time, it's free.
A lot of them are restricted by class or major.
That's true.
Though.
So beware.
Yes.
Going back to classes, though, what would you say was the most challenging one that you took, and what was your favorite? I guess they can be both the same.
I would say a lot of the intro classes are probably the hardest just because you're trying to figure out how everything works. Like even though it's like a prereq class, like the like CMPA is hard. Like if we didn't have someone who's older than us show us how to use Maya, it would have been really, really hard to get through. Or like lots of kids, like the first time they do a 2D animation is hard, or the first 3D animation class. Like a lot of times, like the first step is the hardest step because once you kind of get a whole, because it's like a lot of it too is you're learning how to animate at the same time as you're learning a whole lot of software. So it's a lot of stuff all at once at the beginning, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I remember the most challenging one I can remember off the top of my head was actually 3D production. And so, yeah, because that was tricky because that is the first serious 3D animation class you take. And they also have the 2D version. I think you only have to take one. I'm not sure if I've known anybody who took both. But the idea in 3D at least is you are provided a rig. You get your own rig for a character, but you have to do everything else, and that's kind of, it's your first step into modeling, lighting, texturing on a more intense level than what you get in animation.
Yeah, you make a 20-second short in a quarter is the plan.
Hello.
Or 15 seconds.
It's Brandon.
Hello.
Is everything okay? Did your computer survive?
More importantly, is it still in the refrigerator? Are you coming to us live from the refrigerator?
Oh, hey, I just got my headphones on. What's up? Sorry.
Oh, are you coming to us live from the refrigerator right now with your computer?
I wish. It's cooled off a little bit more now, so I can at least talk. I still have no idea what's going on in my video, but...
Oh, well. At least your profile picture is a good one. Since you haven't got to chime in yet, we're talking a little bit about our favorite classes. Oh, wait, no, one thing. You had told me before about the Troy and Weber schools of learning and rivalry, like between students. Where do you side?
So, I actually was asked a question by an animator on my film recently. She was like, okay, so should I take Troy or Weber for 2D production, or not production, principles? And I said Troy for principles, and mainly that's just because he has this, I want to put it this way, serious versus less serious, right? Weber is an extremely good character animator. He's great for acting, learning, anything like that when it comes to more improvisational or, just character acting based stuff. But Troy is more... like real by the book, like he's like very much the person you would want to teach a class that's called principles. He kind of hits all the basic thing. I don't know where everyone else stood on this, but like he hits all the basic things in a very, very harsh manner. He makes you walk out of that class saying to yourself, if you want to animate something, you can't just animate it. You have to do the groundwork. You have to start with the basics. You have to sketch it out, thumbnail it, figure out what's realistic, what's not, what you're going for. Like I don't know, he makes you really think about all the aspects that go into like a truly Disney quality like animation, whereas Weber will let it slide. If I may, he'll say like, do that, animate that, you'll give it your best shot, you'll do it, and it'll be like, it won't be perfect, but he'll be like, that's good character acting, you know what I mean? But when it comes to principles, like, you want someone who's gonna make you think about physics and science and like how it actually is, So they're both obviously great professors with extremely like an extreme amount of insight and knowledge that you should abuse if you come to SCAD. Get to know them, hang out with them. But like they're both good in their own respects. Troy was an effects animator, so he knows physics. He's going to be basing everything off of real life. Which I think is better for 2D principles, whereas Weber, again, is the character acting, more loosey-goosey, kind of like, that looks and feels fun kind of guy, and that's awesome for character acting and, like, being improvisational. And, like, for my film, there is no, in Jumpin' Jack, like, there's absolutely no way to get the animation done if you're coming at it from a Troy perspective, you know? And I never took a Weber class, but, you know, I wish I did, because that would have been way more helpful to my film than Troy's animation teaching did, because his effects have helped my film a lot, because the person who's a supervisor of my film takes her classes from him. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of rambling at this point, but they're both extremely necessary for entirely different reasons.
Well said.
Yep.
Shots fired.
He's finally in the chat, and now he's got stuff to say.
Mhm.
I feel like I missed out on enough, so...
It was a strong intro.
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
we're also
2D
going down the
principles,
line and
though,
talking
always
about
Troy.
what classes were the most challenging and which ones were your favorite. So,
okay.
yeah.
So which class is my favorite and which is the most challenging?
Yeah, they can even be the same. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I kind of border on that because as far as most challenging class I've taken goes, I want to say just for growth reasons and everything else, and, you know, straight up how hard it was, I would say Troy's character design and layout class was probably the most labor-intensive course I ever took at SCAD because, you know, it's again, like, you know, he's very rigorous. Like, he will keep you on task, to say it euphemistically. Like, he'll inspire you and drive you to work very, very hard, probably harder than you ever have in a class. That's why I say it's the hardest one that I ever took, because it also had, like, I mean, just the sheer amount of different and varied work that goes into it is insane. I mean, it's like an entirely new idea or concept or medium that you're presenting through a project almost every 2 weeks. You know, it's one of the first classes I took where I did way different kinds of projects all in the same class for one big production-based goal. You know, I mean, a lot goes into it. So definitely the hardest class, but also it was one of my favorites. And the only other class that I would say is a competition of favorites is just general storyboarding. Whenever we first took screen design, I would say that was probably one of my favorite classes. And now and that's probably because I want to be a director one day. Like, that is my path, if that is what I'm going to do anyway. So I think that's what really made it so awesome for me, just because it was the first time that I ever actually told a full story in animatic ever, and it was really fun. So now, for my career, you know, I'm looking at entry-level positions in both story and character design, which both came from both of those classes. So, yeah. Hardest class, character design. It made me believe in myself and designing characters. And favorite class was probably just screen design, because for the first time I felt like I was directing a narrative, like a visual narrative.
You had some good stuff come out of your character design class, because you've got a lot of that on your website still. It looks like they were really wanting a lot from that class. It's really structured and set up.
That class is great. I would suggest it to anyone who, whether you're 2D or 3D, I mean, obviously, if you're not 2D, it's going to be a lot more rigorous because you don't want to draw as much. But, you know, also on the topic of 2D and 3D, I don't know if you guys handled that yet, but 2D and 3D should not be so split apart like it is. Everyone thinks, you know, you can only do one or two. I'd say you should do all.
That.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Anyway, if you're, I would say a 2D person will obviously enjoy the character design class more. But I would say anyone who at some point sees themselves creating stories or pitches for TV shows or directing at all or anything. I mean, if you have any passion for creating the pre-production sides of a story for animation, I would suggest that class, because you're going to be thinking about storyboards, a full story, main characters with supporting characters, how to render out one of those characters in tons of different ways through maquettes and awesome model sheets. Like, you know, you gotta do a lot, and then, you know, developing the whole world layout wise. I mean, you're developing literally every visual element of an idea, and I think that's really crucial. Especially, I would even suggest taking that as
Well, and you do need to make a 2D model sheet for a 3D character.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wait, what about that?
You do need to, before you make a 3D character, you do need to make a 2D model sheet first.
Yeah.
So it's
for that.
equally applicable.
So yeah, no, absolutely. So even more of a point for why if you're 3D, don't be afraid of the drawing classes if you're 3D. I mean, you're an artist, like that. We all started on pen and paper and drawing, I mean, that's where we all. I mean, and Seth said that he kind of began with just like moving action figures, and that's where he kind of really got his passion for animating. And like I feel that. But everyone draws. Everyone in this industry has to draw, so don't be afraid of drawing classes. It's only going to help you. Even if you're struggling and failing for like half the time, just do it. Force yourself to get better at it, because you're going to have to. I think if you're going into animation, you should never be afraid to draw or sketch. It's vital. But yeah, absolutely on the 3D side, you're modeling out something in 3D. And honestly, just that class alone, that maquette project from that class, actually gave me a lot of what's the word? Validation, confirmation, like confidence, I think, to 3D model. Like I want to pick up ZBrush now. Like I have a friend that's really, really awesome at ZBrush, and before I leave here in a few weeks, I'm gonna do at least 2 classes with him and just go from there. But like I would never have been so confident in it if it were not for the maquette from that class. So I think in all respects that class is very, very good for developing a concept. And I would suggest that be your first class before concept dev, and then concept dev goes into senior 1. I would suggest taking that before concept dev and treating it like a practice for concept dev, because in a way it is. Is anyone else taking concept dev here?
We're all graduated.
Yeah.
We're all
okay.
graduated.
I wasn't aware.
Just you.
Oh, okay,
I took
cool.
it a
Well, yeah.
long time ago.
Okay. I had no idea. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. They're all part of my class. We're
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well,
Maybe at least a freshman year.
But now you're making me wish I was still there, because
I know. I miss it so
Cool.
much.
I want to take
Catherine, I want to hear from you. What were your hardest classes, and what was your favorite one?
Off the top of my head, the first half of rigging was really, really hard to wrap my head around. But it was also really interesting too. So, but yeah, I think I made a C in like the first half of that class. The biped rigging is really, really hard, and I didn't even get good enough to like do quadruped rigging or anything. But like props and simple objects and stuff, and like environmental elements, I really like that area of it. As for favorite classes, there's almost too many to pick. But I really loved screen design, and I really loved history of animation.
Oh yeah.
History was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think the 3 of us had that together, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That professor, he's
It
so
was
great.
Y'all had McGowan?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, he's awesome.
We had him, I think, his first
quarter.
Yeah. His
He was
first
amazing.
quarter ever of teaching.
That's awesome. That must have been really funny.
Oh yeah,
because
he was
seemed
great.
he seemed like really unsure of himself, but then like he
Yeah.
just like had so much knowledge. But then
Yeah, like
also
he
was
clearly
what's
really
funny?
wanted to be
loved
his
the
friend.
material.
It probably really seemed like that only because he was new, but what's funny is that
Oh,
stuck
exactly.
around for sure. It's hilarious. He's just so he's the sweetest professor I think I've had at SCAD at all.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's the best word for it, I think. I don't know what else to say.
And he
He's so
just
funny.
presents everything in a really interesting way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just brilliant.
It's like
he's
the best
there for a
history
reason.
class you'll get.
Yeah, he's awesome. That class actually midway through completely changed my senior film. Completely changed it. I saw one thing and it revamped my whole concept.
Because learning from the people who came before you, it's really great.
I just remember that he always,
What about you?
for like favorite classes,
Yeah.
I took a lot of storyboarding classes, and that was just like me dipping my feet into the sequential classes, and so those were fun. As far as stuff on the animation class, I also did really like screen design, because that was kind of where I figured out, oh, storyboarding is neat. And so that was really fun. History of animation I took with all these guys, that was really fun. I'm trying to think of what else. Backtracking way to the beginning of the start of the conversation, that color theory class, that very first color theory, that was arguably one of the most creative classes, just because they gave you so much freedom with what you were allowed to do.
Yeah.
My very first project for that, I made like a 2-minute animation, and then I made plushies for that class. I made a comic book for that class. I did a lot of different stuff for that class, and it just kind of but yeah, I wouldn't say that there were really any classes that I disliked except for a handful, but I won't go into those just yet.
It's because of a certain professor. Or certain professors.
There are 2 that I have big rants about.
And they're also
I think I might know which ones they are.
I know which ones they are, and they're 2, and they're the only ones that teach those classes, so.
Let's not get my channel shut down by SCAD.
Yeah, so we can't say them.
I
It's
do
kind
want
of
to throw
awkward
in
because I do know that there are 2 career advisors that watch this, so
Yes, we'll be quiet.
be warned.
Nice.
I do want to throw in real quick before we go to a different topic. As far as like higher level electives go, experimental animation was a really cool class and a really fun class.
I wish I had taken that.
Oh, Catherine, that actually
might
leads
have been one of my
to a question somebody had for you specifically. They wanted to know why specifically you like experimental animation.
Oh gosh. I didn't know I was going to get put on the spot like this.
If you want to think about it, we can save it to the Q&A after.
Yeah, let me think about it a little bit.
Okay. And if there are any other people in the chat who have questions, you guys can keep typing them and I'll read them off at the end. But anyway, oh, well, speaking of electives, I wanted to know...
Can you see the chat, or is it just on your screen?
Oh, if you guys click the YouTube link that I shared on my Facebook page, you can go and read them and interact in the chat.
Nice.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so Starla, you've taken a lot of sequential electives. What other electives did you guys take outside of your major that helped you a lot, or didn't? Did you guys take any?
I took a lot of major classes. I think the thing that was not a class that helped me the most, and this is the thing that you'll definitely do if you're an animation kid, is work on other people's senior projects and senior films and like senior games, because like that's you working with other students and kind of like you trudging your own way through, and you can usually show up a professor and be like, hey, is this okay? And then they'll help you with that too. So it's like extracurricular stuff, but it's good. I would say that that was really helpful.
Grant, did you take anything outside of animation, or you just stuck with animation electives?
Oh, no. I took a lot of different... I mean, well, I did... I kind of... I would have to... I mean, I can't remember all of them right now. I took a lot of different classes. I really, really, really love literature and fine art. Like, a lot. Like, I take... I think one of my my favorite classes was like 20th century art. I know that's like a mandatory thing. That's not an elective. I know that, but that was probably my ideal like elective. Honestly, I took electives like that as much as possible. I just thought I thought it was really cool. Like when it comes to the history, I've always loved history. I'm kind of a little bit of a history buff. I think it's interesting to, to see how people lived before me. But especially within animation and fine art and stuff, I just love to see thought processes and how they've developed in different mediums throughout different times. So like a lot of electives I took would be fine arts or literature. I like writing a lot. I like poetry, short stories, any kind of famous literature. So those, honestly, I took a few electives here and there that were very, animation based. Obviously, if you love that thing, then do that thing. But I do have a little bit of a passion for like, literature and fine art. So those are some things I would take. That I did take.
What about the rest of you guys? I did not take any. I was left with none because I'm the odd one that my transfer credits were my free electives, so that couldn't happen.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, just if there were any electives that you took outside of your animation major that you liked or didn't like or thought were worth mentioning.
In sophomore year, I took Intro to Sequential and Intro to Film.
Catherine, you also took that VisFX class, right?
Mm,
Lighting and rendering?
yeah, that's right. That's right. I took, I forget what it was called, but it was basically like advanced texturing and lighting or something. I think it was actually, it might have been in the game design department. Because I think I took it with Kelsey, actually. I probably spent too much time and energy worrying about electives when I should have been funneling that into my core classes. But whatever. That's what college is for, I guess.
One thing too is
And
if you're
Scat's honestly pretty forgiving about you changing your mind later. At least they give you those 3 electives, hoping that if you catch a dead end in any of 3 directions, you'll still find a major.
That being said, if you're animation, if you want to like pursue like modeling, a lot of the really good modeling and ZBrush classes are in the game design
Yeah,
department
that's for sure.
and not in animation. So look out for those. Talk to the game dev
If you
kids.
do take modeling in animation, you should probably take Mauer, though.
He's not there anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's not?
Yeah.
He's at FSU.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he was awesome. I never had a class with him, but he was so cool.
He was the best professor I had there.
Yeah, I think of all of my professors, I took the most classes with him, probably.
Nice. But yeah, on the topic of you know how you said going to game design to find really good modeling classes, like definitely do that. Like a lot of people come in and have this question of minors and such, right? Like I don't know if you guys had any minors. It seems like maybe I think you might have had Starly. You might have had the storyboard minor. Did you?
Yeah, I had the storyboard minor.
Mm-hmm. What did you like? I guess in response to what I'm about to just say, like, how did you feel about your minor? But like, I think I would suggest that people, if you okay, so you Starly, you knew that you wanted to be a storyboard artist, so obviously that minor is only helpful. But I would suggest to anyone who doesn't know what you want to do, especially if you don't know if you're going to be 2D or 3D, if you have to choose, then I would suggest not taking a minor. I would suggest using your electives for those other major courses that help to inform your animation major. You know, if you wanted to be a modeler for animation, take a lot of game modeling courses. That's a great idea. If you want to be a storyboarding major, if you want to focus on that, then have the minor, but also maybe take a film class. You know, like, you have so many different disciplines that are there, and you should use all of them. I would even suggest to someone who really likes fabric animation, maybe even take a fashion class. You know what I mean? Like, to really understand what it is you're working with. You know, I just think that SCAD has so many resources, and we don't really tap into them as much as we should or could.
Yeah, I took the game design programming class as a free elective.
That's awesome.
That's just because I like programming. But that was really useful too. I think that helped me get my job. Actually, I was like,
Exactly.
oh yeah, I know C++. So
exactly, those electives are so important. I mean, those electives decide your specialty in your career. You know, we all know kind of what we want to do, but when you take those electives, like when I took character design, like that really solidified kind of who I became career-wise. So those electives in different disciplines are really important. I mean, I know my elective in that instance was animation, but you know what I mean? Like, they're all extremely helpful, and I would definitely not limit yourself to just animation. I would jump out to everything that fits it.
And you know, that's not something we really touched on, the idea of having a minor. We haven't talked about that at all in any of these other streams. So, Starla, if you could briefly summarize what that adds on to the regular college experience. Like, do you have any delays then with graduation if you take on a minor?
I actually did not, because I took a lot. I took at least 2, maybe 3, I forget, classes at a community college in my hometown over the summer. So I got my math out of the way, I got my psychology out of the way, which was like a liberal arts elective or something like that, I think. But I took enough classes during the summer outside of SCAD. By the way, if you can do that, I would absolutely recommend it. The negative side to that is I did have at least 3 or 4 quarters where I was taking all 3 studio classes, which is not something I recommend unless you have amazing time management, because it is a lot of work.
And Star, you have amazing time management, so that's
I do.
a lot.
It's true. I wasn't going to say it, but you said it, so I will admit to it.
And for those of you watching who don't think that having 3 classes at all is a big amount of time,
You have no idea.
put it in
No.
perspective that
You haven't been to art school.
equivalent of
You have
a part-time job for each of them. Imagining trying to have 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah, because I
if you
mean,
have
what's
3
the...
studios.
absolutely.
Okay, so here's the thing. We at SCAD, this is every Friday. Nobody has classes on Fridays. But you need that day to get work done. Like,
Yeah,
it's not a
studio
weekend.
day.
You need Saturday and Sunday too.
Yeah, eventually.
If you're gonna eat well, you're gonna sleep well, and you're gonna work well, you need every single day of that week. That's why SCAD is so crazy. It prepares you for the real world, but also kind of doesn't, because the real world is not that insane.
The real
all
world
the
is
time.
easier.
I was
Yeah,
like
no.
0 for 3 on those.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I agree. Oh my gosh, the real world. I think so much of it, too, with freelance is you set more realistic schedules if you're just, like, you are the artist or you're working with one other person. It's been like that for me.
It's true. It's less like I know I had classes where they would assign our animation project on Tuesday, and then it would be due the next Tuesday. So you have like 1 week to do like a full project because you only have 10 weeks in a quarter. So it was crazy.
Yeah, I will actually talk about that. Back to the Troy and Weber conversation. I never took any classes with Troy, and I would have, but my thing was my first my quarter where I would have taken Principles of 2D was going to be a 3 studio class elective.
yeah,
and I'm
I did
thinking,
It
I'm
sucked.
thinking, if I take Troy, I'm going to die. And so I didn't.
Yeah. It's funny. Okay, so on that same note, I did 3 studios with the Troy 2D Principles, but I was also like a freshman, so that was different. My three studios were like color theory, 3D design, and then that was my main course. You know, the other 2 foundations classes that were I just said it, studios. Like, yeah, they were studios, but they weren't as near as intensive as demanding as 2D Principles with Troy. So I was able to do that, but also focus only on 2D Principles. So, you know, it's possible to take 3 studios with that class in Troy.
But you have to plan it really
Exactly.
well. I was not so lucky.
Exactly.
I
No,
don't remember
totally.
what other classes I took that quarter, but I did, like I said, several quarters with 3 studio classes.
Yeah,
And
no, absolutely.
I think one of those was the quarter I got hit by a truck right before finals.
Wow.
I remember that.
Welcome to SCAD, everybody. This is SCAD.
Yeah. No, I literally got hit by a truck and then had to do finals.
Oh my god.
I
broke my
remember
wrist.
that.
Wow,
Oh my god.
She got hit by a truck.
That was a tense night.
I got hit by a truck, and that was the only class I ever missed.
That was a tense night.
It was.
She got hit by a truck while she was on a moped. She wasn't in a car.
Yeah, I
She
was
on
I
a
was
moped.
on my
gosh.
scooter, and some guy was like, "I don't have to obey stop signs," and I was like, "Okay." Hi,
That's
passenger
crazy.
side window. What's up? I was going 50. But
And
no,
then
yeah, so
the hospital called me, and I was her roommate, so I was the only person that could go back there and watch her while she was on the.
terrible concussion.
That's my SCAD. That's my SCAD suggestion is
Don't get hit by a truck.
Also,
But no, yeah.
fill out your emergency
And
contacts.
thing
That is a
is-
real thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
don't
that's
just
how
have
they
your-
contacted me. But the other thing is the only thing she was saying, like the only thing she was saying while she was there and like half conscious with her concussion was, Am I gonna miss class? I don't want an absence.
That's what SCAD does to you.
Yeah,
Well, no,
it
because
absolutely does.
I had perfect attendance until that truck hit me, and I'm still mad about it 4 years later. Luckily, it was a class I did not care for much, but I had homework due.
Yeah.
But no, I just remember that was not even my most intense quarter. It was not. I had a broken wrist. I shoved a knitting needle into my cast and used that to do keyboard shortcuts.
There you go.
And
That's
I
what it
still
takes.
got all my work done on time. That is what SCAD makes you do.
Yeah, I remember our friend
What's
Dana
your
had
excuse?
bronchitis and pneumonia at the same time. She was taking 3 studios, but she had to drop one. But, like, it gets crazy.
Yeah, go big or go home.
I think I
did-
remember waking up one time before a portfolio review, like 20 minutes before the review, I had somehow forgotten to print resumes, and I ran to Creative Approach, printed off resumes, and then got to the thing. I mean, you're going to, like, throughout your time at SCAD, if you're doing well, you're going to not know how well you're doing because you're going crazy. You know what I mean? Like, if you are doing well, you will not even be aware of it because you're just going to be ran ragged.
That's so true.
If you're in a place of complacence, then you must be doing something wrong. That's the way I'll put it with SCAD.
If you're in complacence, then take up 2 more senior films and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Find something else to do because you're clearly not doing enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. You should pretty much always be tired here. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that's ridiculous and is not a good advertisement. But it's just, that's the way it prepares you. You come out of high school, you don't know anything. You need to be kind of, in a way, broken. Not like in a bad, like, crazy way, but, like, you need to realize what it takes to make real quality stuff on a realistic deadline. Which even
You need to
then,
get hit by a truck.
yeah,
As they say, SCAD stands for sleep comes after death.
exactly.
I haven't thought about that in so long.
It's true.
Now,
Yeah.
But it's
As a
fun.
counter-
Like we make it sound horrible, but it's so much fun. Like
Yeah,
it's like
it really
a wild
is.
ride. And then you
Yeah.
look back and you're like, wait, am I already done? 4 years happened? What?
I miss it.
So,
Yeah, I will say as a counter to that, we say stuff like this, but the upside to that is if you do these things and you get better, your time management improves, and you will find yourself getting better at managing all of the things that you take on.
Yeah,
So the
you'll be
idea
doing
of-
more.
Yeah, the idea of working harder and working on all these different things is to better yourself and to level up all of your RPG skills.
Like, think about, since all of you graduated, that's awesome. Think about your films. How much work it took to get a few minutes of decent animation. I mean, if you guys ever at any point wanted to direct a full feature film, which, I mean, who doesn't dream of that, And if you were to eventually do that one day, like, how could you ever possibly have thought about doing that if you didn't start somewhere and get, you know what I mean? Like, what am I trying to say exactly? It's just like, you can't expect to do incredible things if you don't start somewhere, and it sucks, it's hard, but it's so worth it,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons it's so hard and the reason it needs to be hard is because I think the world at large just doesn't understand what goes into animation, like specifically for our thing, like, it's a relatively new medium, I mean, come on, think about history of man. It's pretty new, and we as people just don't understand what goes into it on a general public level. So we all come into it from high school like, oh, that'll be fun, like, I'll do it, like, it'll be all right, we'll make it work, it'll come together if I believe hard enough, and yeah, that's true, but, like, it really takes a lot, and if you're not really stretched out to your breaking point, you're not going to be able to do it. Like, I think struggle produces great reward, like, all the time, and it's just really important to know that, because if you're a freshman, I'm saying this basically for all the high schoolers, freshmen, anyone who's very new or coming in, like, you're going to be told a bunch of horror stories, like, I got hit by a bus before finals and still made it, you're going to hear a bunch of crazy horror stories, but what those people might not be remembering to say is like, it was awesome. You know?
I
Like,
mean, I can vouch for that.
it's awesome to be able to say I made it through that, you know? And I think our generation is very much against working hard, you know? And
What
I
doesn't
think
kill you makes you stronger.
exactly, you need to remember that because this is a
not
hard place.
not all of what you put. A lot of what you put on yourself is stuff you put on yourself. Like, I think my only all-nighters were because I was also working on 5 senior films at the same time.
Exactly.
So a lot of it too is you take your own poison, but you do it because you want to, and it's so much fun. And I
Why
want to
would
work
you
on 2
do
video
that?
games at the same time as I
Sarah's
do
a
3
crazy
senior
person.
films. It's so much
Sarah,
fun.
why did you do
I
that?
lived with her for 3 years. She's a crazy person.
It's
I
fun.
can vouch
And
for
then-
this.
And like even just doing like normal SCAD extracurricular things, like I made a lot of connections in cosplay club. Like it's like there's so much to do.
Exactly.
It goes crazy.
And by the way, okay, Sarah, you said you worked on like 5 films, and that was probably the way you talked about it. It seemed like maybe a regular thing for you. Every once in a while, you were on a lot of films.
Yeah.
People like you are the reasons why films are done.
Yeah, well,
You know,
it's great.
like, if it were not for the Sarahs of Monty, the films would not be done. You know, and that's just how it is. You got to be that person. You know, you're going to be the person people remember whenever they're at their own studios later on, and they're like, who can get work done? You know, who can take on stuff, get it done, and turn it around faster than everyone else? You know, that's the people that we want in this industry. It's hard, but it's worth it. You know. So, but yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it's
so
fun.
Grant, you're our resident student right now. So,
What year are you?
What is it like? to
I'm
be-
graduating.
What are you worrying about
Okay,
as a
okay.
last quarter senior?
So currently, right now, if my fiance is listening, I'm pretty sure she is at her house. Shout out to Zoe. Right now, because
Hi,
it involves
Zoe.
her. Right now, I am 3.5 weeks away from graduation. I am about 6.5 weeks away from getting married. And
Yeah, congratulations.
I have no job figured out exactly yet. Like, nothing completely set in stone. So that's terrifying.
Yeah, well,
You know?
one thing advice-wise, as far as that goes, is keep at, like, I know some people, it took them a year, it even took them 2 years to find a job right after school, but, like, they got it because they kept applying. So a lot of
Exactly.
times it's just, like, you just gotta keep putting your stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give up hope.
That's all I'm doing.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, you can't give up. I mean, because here's again, when I'm talking about like big senior films projects, everyone working together, like you have no idea what's going on in these studios. Like, no one's trying to just like not give you a job, and no one is trying to give you a job. It's just about production needs. You know, like when it comes to, since we've all directed senior films and we can all talk about that. Like, did you ever intentionally want to hurt someone's feelings for not having them on your film or for having them on your film? It had nothing to do with them. It was all about your film and what you needed, and that's honestly just what it came down to. Now, obviously, you care about your crew, you help them, you treat them well, but like, it's not about them. It's about the product. It's about the production schedule and what's needed. So, it's really important for people to realize that when they become seniors and stuff, and they're in this same stress that I'm in right now. Like, you just got to all you can do is keep going. You know, all you can do is keep throwing your stuff out there and hope that someone needs you. But like, you can't get disappointed if no one does, because like, that might be a complete coincidence that you have no control over. But it doesn't mean that you're not fit, or that nothing's gonna work for you. It just means, hey, that didn't happen, so keep going. Try something else.
Can I cut in here with something?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Kind of because something you said made me think of this. I think there's a lot of pressure at SCAD that, like, oh, there's film and TV and games, and that's the only animation job. You have to get into a studio. But actually, there's a heck of a lot more out there. Like, the 3 of us, me and Sarah and Starla, we're doing jobs that weren't even touched on when we were in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awesome too because I
Like,
don't work in.
don't have to go work for a studio. There's other things to look
Absolutely.
Yeah,
at.
I don't work for a studio, and it's awesome because I do 3D and I do 2D and I direct and I storyboard, and there's only 4 people on my team, so I have a lot of say in what we do, and
Yeah.
it's fun. So,
And that
yeah.
makes sense because I mean, think about it. We're problem solvers. We're creative people, right? We have a problem. I don't have a job. Let's get creative. Where can I work? What can I use? You know, what have I learned at SCAD that will help me get a paycheck anywhere? You know, I'm looking into like advertising firms. I'm looking into graphic
Yeah.
design, anything, because I know how to do those jobs. So,
And then sometimes
you know?
those are the jobs that'll be fun for you to do too, because
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to experiment a lot more and have a little bit more say in what your final output looks
Exactly.
like.
It's kind of like an elective almost. I mean, you know, don't limit yourself. Like, if you have a skill set, you can use that in like 5 different ways. You just got to get creative. That's all there. You know, you paid a lot to go to SCAD. You worked a lot to go to SCAD. Use it. You know, like that's not use it. Like get the return investment there. You know, just get creative. Think outside the box. So yeah, absolutely. Don't pigeonhole yourself to just thinking studio mindset. You can work anywhere. Just as long as you know you have a drive and you're happy doing what you're doing, you're fine. You know, I mean, obviously try to get into animation if you just spent 4 years learning animation, but you know, like you don't have to start off big. You can't actually. Everyone has to start somewhere small. Be humble.
You have to suck at something before you're good at something.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got one more question before we move over to the question and answer session from people in the chat. So, my favorite, the one that will get my channel shut down by you career advisors watching, what are your biggest praises of the animation department, and what are your biggest criticisms? Catherine, why don't you start us off? Unleash the hate.
Well, I'll start with the good stuff, I guess, I think.
Start with the good and work our way down.
The 2 best things about the animation department, which I believe are really the best at SCAD and probably of any art school, is number 1, the faculty is really amazing. They get professors who have real industry experience and they're really great instructors. And the second thing is just the attitude of the students and kind of the cultural environment of it. Like, there's this really strong feeling of everybody's pulling together, everybody's willing to help you. I had times when I was up at like 5 a.m. crying my eyes out because something wouldn't render or some random little widget in Maya was flipping out and I had no idea what to do, and some stranger would come and pat me on the back and be like, here's how you do this. And from what I've heard, a lot of the other departments at SCAD aren't like that, but animation is really special in that way. As for what I don't like, they may have actually changed this by now because I remember they were kind of in discussions about it as we were leaving. How the senior film system is set up, I really feel that it should be in groups and not individual.
Or at least you should have that option.
Yeah, because that's what most of the other schools do, and they put out much more professional-looking films on average, honestly. I mean, we have some really great ones, but if SCAD went for quality over quantity in that aspect, I think it would probably be better.
Especially since it's like the idea of the senior film is you're a director, but half the people might want to be modelers and not directors at all.
Yeah, I was really much happier when I was working on other people's films than when I was working on my own.
Yeah, that was definitely one thing I was going to mention, is that at the end of the year, everybody has to have a film. But some people might not be interested in that, and I feel like that should be a choice that we're allowed to make.
I'm not a director at all, and my senior film was kind of a disaster and caused me a lot of stress.
What was the biggest reason?
Oh, I was really awful at managing my time and my expectations, and I really just didn't figure out what kind of film I should be making until like 6 weeks till graduation. And yeah, there were some meltdowns about that. But yeah, the biggest thing was time management, and I really didn't figure out how to do proper concept, like laying the groundwork until later than I should have, which was on me, not on SCAD.
It's so much to do in such a small amount of time, like getting stressed out thinking about it. It's
Yeah.
no wonder people freak out. Starla, what about you? Biggest
All right.
criticisms, favorite praise things about SCAD?
Yeah, so I will go ahead and double up on the praises that Catherine already said, is that the faculty is awesome, minus a few, but they weren't for your core animation classes. They were for other stuff that I will not go into until we get to that section.
We all know what you're talking about.
I'm not sure if you know all of my briefs, because some of them were for classes for my minor, but anyway.
I know them because I lived with you.
Yes, you did. You got to hear me moan about them every day. But yeah, so, I mean, the cool thing about SCAD is that you're given a lot of opportunities, but the trick is that you have to take those opportunities. They give you things like guest lectures and presentations from companies, and like recruiters coming in, but obviously you don't get anything out of those unless you attend them and you like actually take part in the... They're throwing things at you constantly, but if you don't actually take the initiative to take those opportunities, then you're kind of wasting your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one cool thing, is that like they provide you with a lot of this stuff that other schools might not be able to give you. As far as griefs, there were 2 classes in the animation major that I greatly disliked. One of them was media literacy theory,
Oh,
because I
I've
was
heard
in that
that
class
before.
I
for
forgot
10
that
weeks.
existed.
and I have no idea why. Like,
That class was a mess.
I don't know what we were supposed to be learning about.
All I learned was the
don't
guy
know
that was
what
spying
the
on us.
point. I don't know anything. I would walk out of that class every day, twice a week, confused. And she would like assign us homework, and I'd be like, I guess this is what we're supposed to do? And it was just like the biggest enigma of a class I've ever taken. Is like, why am I spending $3,000 on this? I don't know who I am. I don't know where I've been for the last 2.5 hours. Where am I?
I think I learned
Yeah.
what they wanted us to learn in that class in my art history classes. So it was kind of
I think that-
redundant.
I don't know if it's still on the course, like the course schedule, but if it is, I think it would be better replaced with a history class
Yeah.
of some kind. So.
Yeah, I think that class is more of a meditation on all the crazy new horizons of media.
Well, I definitely got a lot of meditation done in the class.
I mean, that's, I thought it was a cool class. I thought it was interesting, but really it wasn't meditation. Really, we're just sitting there thinking about concepts all day, and it's not really stuff that, like, I mean, yeah, like I like that class a lot, but I still completely agree with everything you just said, which is kind of like a testament to what you just said. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good class, but at the same
But
time,
why?
like, I don't know I still don't really remember what
We
I learned.
we
Like,
also took it the first year they offered it, and I don't think any of the professors were consistent with what they taught.
Well, each professor taught a completely different class with
Different
a
course.
completely different curriculum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe y'all were the guinea pigs.
Yep.
But I mean, it still was. I mean, it was definitely the most vague thing I've ever been a part of, for sure.
It was
Yeah,
more of
that's
an
pretty
art
good
installment than a class.
Yeah, my class ended up being media is horrible. Don't look at
Yeah.
it, which was bad because that's what we're trying to make. So,
Yeah, I remember our whole class was animators because we were the only major who was required to take it. And our professor didn't even know that it was required for us. He thought we were just all taking it as an elective.
Ha ha ha.
It was strange.
That's so funny.
Oh yeah, so Starla, was there anything else you had to add with that, or is it mostly boo on those two classes?
That was the only class gripe. The rest are involving professors. And I won't say them by name, but I did take one class. I did take a couple of one writing class that was terrible. That was for my minor. You have to take a couple of screenwriting and short story classes, and that was just, I did not like the way he taught the class. And then the other was what was it? Business card class.
Yeah.
What was it called? But yeah, a professional development. That one was just I know how to make a business card. Can I go home, please? And then it was.
I would say my critique about. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. You can go.
I'd say my critique. Yeah, my critique about that class is they give it to you beginning of your junior year, and at that point you don't have enough stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that should be a senior year class. I think it's in the wrong part. It's in the wrong order.
I think you should
Yeah.
only be able to take it after halfway through junior class, your year. I think, for me, it was good. I took it at the winter quarter of junior year. Actually, okay, well, I just curtailed that to my experience. Anyway, I took that class midway through junior year, and it was really good to me because I set up the order or the framework for what I would fill in the next year or two. And also it helped me to funnel my work into my title. It forces you to think about one or two things you want to do, advertise everything around that, and then, it helped me, in that way it helped me to funnel my work and kind of be early, get more focused earlier on to a specific thing. In that way, it's good. But at the same time, yeah, I do agree. I think
they stick it in too early. I think it should be because right now I think it's default end sophomore, beginning of junior, and it's.
Oh no, that's too early. Yeah, that's definitely
too early.
Absolutely no. I think it should be toward the end of junior year and the beginning of senior. I think the end of senior is a little bit too late though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you definitely need that class before the last quarter of SCAD if you can help it, because doing that, I couldn't imagine finishing a film, searching for jobs, and also not having a site to send to jobs. That would be ridiculous. Do not do that to yourself, guys.
Yeah.
Take that class before your last quarter. That would be ridiculous. If you can help it, if you can. I know I'm actually roommates with someone who couldn't help that, or didn't. I'm not sure. But I couldn't imagine being in that position currently. Especially with me getting married as well, that would just be ridiculous. I couldn't do it. I would die.
Too many things.
Exactly.
Too many.
Balance what you're taking on. But on the note of professional development, if I may chime in real quick, I know I have my own answer to this, but the DVD assignment, go away. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Look at all of your faces.
Okay.
Nobody was even doing that when we were there, and we still had to do it.
No, I have never heard of any company that looks for a DVD reel. I've never heard of it. But if they do exist, they're wrong for that, because we are not in that time anymore. You can look up a website and find a reel. You don't need to pop in a disc.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Also, they give us that assignment. He gives us that assignment, and then there's not even a computer with a DVD burner. At SCAD. Yeah. So I don't feel bad in calling this one assignment out, actually. There's not even a way to do it.
Yeah, because you have to, there's no stores within walking distance of any of the dorms that sell DVDs. You have to go.
They don't even sell them anymore.
You have to walk all the way down to the Office Depot, which is an hour drive from the terrace, or an hour walk from the terrace, which is very far and kind of unreasonable for people. Or you have to bribe friends, being okay, if I buy this huge pack of DVDs, all of you give me $5 and I'll give you one. I've heard of people doing that.
Even people who make movies and sell movies still debate whether they should just do Blu-ray, or, I just think that assignment is a little insane. But
and I think there was one
Yeah.
computer in Monty that let you burn discs.
That's gone now. I checked. I had to.
Well, now there you go.
I still have my leftover DVD stack.
Exactly.
I think I burned mine, but we'll.
Good.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
but yeah,
my-
sorry.
My other complaint about that class, which is one that I just wanted to bring up, is the whole working in groups concept was stupid. Because in that class they put you in groups, and they say if one of your group mates does not get the work done, you all fail. And so rather than making that boost your teamwork skills, all that did was make you hate people.
Yeah,
Because-
And that's why I
It's a
do
good lesson.
comics.
It's a good lesson.
It's a good little lesson on how not to trust people.
yeah, because group work in animation should be in your animation classes, but the whole
Yeah.
applying for jobs thing, it's already a kind of competitive sort of situation.
That's something you do on your
worse.
own.
I think
Yeah, and also
that
you're not collaborating on your professional, like, you're not
Resume,
collaborating
yeah.
on your brand. If it was a film, then yes,
that
but
assignment is only good for the sharing of resources and contacts, but even then, it's a very informal way of doing it, kind of almost rude. You're kind of treating people that
Yeah.
are in the industry like they are assets for a grade. I don't like
Yeah, the
that.
whole
I don't like it at all.
I don't like that either. The finding people's email on LinkedIn and
Imagine,
that was
imagine
to
this.
me, I would be
Imagine
very-
this. You get
I would-
okay, a year from now, each one of you become big, famous, huge names. You know one person at SCAD that uses you for that assignment, and then for some reason from now on, you're always going to be a part of that assignment, and your information and contact info is going to be leaked through years of that. And I just think that's a weird, kind of not right thing. I don't think it should be for a grade. You shouldn't have to turn in actual people's contacts information for a grade. I just think it's, you know, and if you were one of the people that happen to know just a bunch of people in the industry, I think you kind of like are forced to share hard-earned contacts for a 5% grade assignment that you either pass or fail on. I just think that's,
Yeah.
I would rather fail, to be honest. I didn't. I think I can't remember. I think everyone
I
failed,
will
actually.
say that not a single thing we did in that class ended up contributing to the job that I currently have. Not
Yeah,
one.
I feel like most of the stuff, the reel I made in that, I remade my reel during my actual like senior film classes
Yeah.
with the help of my advisor for senior film, and I think that's a better environment to do a lot of the like eventual things in. It's good to get the introduction, but
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
like
important that senior film professors help you out with that.
yeah, I like the idea.
Sorry
of
to
the
interject.
class.
I want to make sure that we still have some time to answer the questions in the chat. So, Grant and Sarah, start with Grant since you were on a roll with your hatred about the DVDs. Do you
Well,
have any
see,
other
that's actually-
criticisms or praises for the department?
Yeah, okay, so on that note, that and the career thing, those two assignments are the only, and the reel is part of, like the DVD is not, the DVD is just something that I don't understand, and that other contact assignment is just something I don't understand. On the flip side, that class was so important to me. Extremely important to me. Was one of the best classes, most productive classes I had at SCAD. Definitely helped me get ready for the industry, I believe. Professionally, packaging, all that kind of stuff, wise. As far as my praise for SCAD's animation course goes, I mean, just overall, like, it's very well ran, I think. I think overall, compared to most other schools, like, consider every other animation department out there. I mean, I say bravo to SCAD because they do a really good job of that. I think they take it seriously. I think the professors, I think the faculty does a really good job, and half the students do a really good job of emanating this very professional aura, like they are very much about it, like, I mean, we have Pat Helbig at SCAD Animation. That's insane. I mean, I hate to just name faculty names, but she's amazing. Like, I don't know if any of you ever met with her, but she knows almost every person in the industry. It's crazy. And I mean, the fact that we have people like that in Troy and seasoned veterans, I mean, and we have new people like Greg Araya is relatively new. He was storyboarding for a bunch of Nick shows and all kinds of other stuff. And I mean, we have Scott Wright. I mean, we have big names.
Scott?
Yeah, there are big names
Scott.
at this department, and I love that. I mean, to be in the same what Starlia said for the wait, was it Starla or Sarah? Starla.
Okay.
Did you say yes, it was you. The opportunities, like they're there, but you got to take them.
Mhm.
You know, the professor. What is it called? The companies that come and visit. You know, those presentations. Those are amazing. Like just on that one note, today I was sending follow-up emails on applications of jobs I submitted to two different companies, and I completely had forgotten that I had met the recruiters from both of those companies at presentations at SCAD. So I was able to address my letters very directly to people who were going to see it. Like and that just came from 2 SCAD presentations. Like that's amazing. So we have extremely great resources, and the faculty takes it seriously, and half the students do. And I like that air that we have. I mean, we are professional. I like that about SCAD. We take pride in that. The only downside is kind of, on the, obvious, like, DVD assignments and stuff that's obviously outdated. I think someone needs to go through and weed that stuff out of the major. They need to go through and take those assignments out that are not helping anything and kind of, restructure or delete them, however you need to do it, whatever. But, like, some things need to go. But overall, my greatest critique of SCAD in a negative way, are 2 things. One, and I'll get this out of the way pretty quick because it's not it's a very general thing to discuss, but the students' attitudes. There's a lot of students who don't take it seriously. We are all working very hard. We have good time management. We shower. We dress right. We come to work. We show up. There are faculty members working hard. We're all doing our part. And then there's like half the students who show up just not, they're not there, and they're not going to make it in the industry, and they know that, and they don't care. And that's terrifying. Like, why are you here? If you don't love this, if you're not passionate about it, then why are you showing up? Like, that sounds really harsh. But if you come here,
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you come here, take it seriously. Don't just like come to class in your pajamas, not showered, with no work. Go home. Don't even show up. Like, that's ridiculous. So I have to cut myself back there and stop because I'll get really upset. I'll just get upset when I think about all the students who come and say, I don't have anything today, sorry. And I'm like, how? Why? That makes no sense. I do. I worked 20 hours this week for it. Were you? Like, that just, So the students need to pull their weight. They need to act like they're actually at a studio. That's one of my biggest critiques. The second critique about the film setups, I used to be on that 100% on all of your sides about, like, we need to divide it up, we need to have groups instead of everyone making their own films. And then I had Senior 3 with Scott B., who is the chair of the department, and he has a really good point for why everyone needs to make their own films. It's very important to learn all aspects of the pipeline. It's good for respecting every single role. The only problem is that I do think it is really crazy how other schools don't do it that way. They have much better films, and those people on those films are definitely better positions to get jobs because they're on much better looking films. That's my only critique. I think there's a lot of truth to both sides, but I mean, obviously something needs to happen. That's my critique. I don't know what it is. I think you learn a lot through making your own film, but I also think you need to be, maybe it even needs to be a class. Maybe you take out one class, you put that class, you take out media literacy theory, you put this class in where you have to choose, are you going to be a member of a team or a director? I don't know, but something needs to happen because that's probably the only grievance that I hear from everybody in animation is that structure needs to be revamped because it definitely hurts the quality.
The period for making the senior film was longer, like if you even started junior year. Because I know it might even help if there's just a longer time frame for making the films.
Cal Arts does that. They do two years.
Some of those other schools are on the semester system, not the quarter system, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, and maybe that's it. There are all I think my biggest grievance is that there are all these grievances, but no one has sat down and really figured out maybe a really good guinea pig idea. No one's really done that yet. And I think it might be just because the faculty are all so on the side of it's beneficial that they're not really looking at the possibility that it might not be as beneficial as they think. That's my only thing on it.
I mean, I remember in senior project, Mauer actually, we had a very long discussion about this in class, because he was all for, like, revamping the system, and I guess now he's not there anymore, so I'm not sure. It was just like, a lot of people were talking about it, but nothing was getting done. No changes.
And people still are. They've been talking about it. It never left. I mean, it's just that structure is not universal, and it's extremely hard. That's why it makes people think about, oh, well, what if it wasn't that way? It doesn't have to be that way, you know, and it doesn't. So there is a solution here. I think everyone I think, however they need to do it, everyone has to take responsibility for one entire aspect of a film. I mean, and directing counts. Like, directing is an aspect of a film. It's not everyone has to do it. You know, not everyone has to rig. Why does everyone have to direct? I just think that there should be a class set up where you figure out what you're doing for your senior project, and maybe that takes the place of concept dev. And maybe concept dev is lumped into senior 1 if you're a director out of that class. I don't know, but there's another way around it. You know, I just don't think everyone has to make their own projects, but I also understand the benefit of doing that. But I think it should be left into your own hands.
Sorry to cut you off there. That's some good stuff, and some people are talking about it in the chat, so well said. Sarah, I want to make sure that you had some time to answer before we move to Q&A. What do you got to say? Bring us home.
Well, my one thing to add, I agree with most of everything else everyone said, especially about media literacy theory. But one thing I want to add about pros, about the animation department, is like resources you have as far as all the software. Like there's a motion capture studio. You have access to a ton of programs, including ones that you don't actually get formal classes on. And that's like even if you're not taking a class in that, like anybody can have access to ZBrush on any of the SCAD computers. And that's really useful because, again, once you graduate, a lot of these programs are like subscription only, and they're really, really, really expensive. Like the cheapest Toon Boom you can get is $30 a month, and then it goes up from there. So it's really good to have those resources while you're in school. And then also just other small things like life drawing classes that are not part of the animation department, but you can go to those anytime you want, even if you're not like a drawing major, all of the presentations. So yeah, just physical and resources are really useful to have, especially once you're out of school and you realize that, oh, I can't just like go somewhere and have access to like a render farm. Yeah, so things like that.
Render farm.
You don't know what you have until it's gone.
I know, we don't have a farm at work, and it's just like, oh, sending off renders is a pain. So.
Anything else you had to add, or should we move to Q&A?
We can move to Q&A.
All right, Catherine, have you thought any more about why you prefer experimental animation, or why you've experimented with that? That was redundant.
Well, it was something I realized after a combination.
I think you're cutting out on my end. Sorry, is anything else going on with anybody else's audio right now?
Yeah, we talked about it again.
Oh, I think it's catching up. Try now, Catherine. Try now.
Okay. How is it now? Is it fine?
Yes.
Okay. It was kind of a combination of, we did a day on abstract and experimental animation and screen design, and it was really interesting. And then later on, we learned more about it in History of Animation. And senior year, I think the second quarter of senior year, I took experimental animation, like I said, and I really loved it. It really clicked with me. And I just wish I had had that realization sooner, because I could have spent more time and energy doing stuff that I liked and that worked for me, instead of what I did end up doing was kind of working on an idea I was sort of half-hearted about, and then freaking out and dumping everything 6 weeks before graduation and starting over with no team. But yeah, that's another of the few flaws that are in the animation program, is that there's a lot of pressure to make something narrative, and I didn't realize until much later that that wasn't really a direction I wanted to go in at that time.
We have another question about, we talked about it a little bit, but the cultures between the different majors, like, do animation people really associate with anybody else, or how do you think the different majors act with each other as a community?
I would say, like, you get a lot of, like, the VisFX multimedia, motion media, game design people just from being in the building, but, like, as far as actual classes go, all of my connections I made to work on, like, games while I was in the department was from friends I made through other things. So that's the give and take, because the floors are really separate for animation versus everyone else, just because there's so many animation kids. The entire third floor is animation, and you really don't have that many classes on the other floors, and the other floors are all the other majors. So I feel like animation in particular doesn't get as much, like, natural talking back and forth as some other people might, especially
I feel like we had a lot of interaction with CEQA, though.
That's true. There were a lot of CEQA kids that would come and work on senior films, so that's good.
Yeah, especially on, like, the concept art and storyboarding side.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of CEQA kids who really have a love of animation, but they want to do the drawing side of it, so I think that's why they're so attracted
I had a lot of
plugging in
electives with that, or a lot.
Yeah, I remember a quote from... There was a quote from my freshman year that one of my professors said. I can't remember which one, but it was, illustrators are lazy sequential artists, and sequential artists are lazy animators.
That's pretty funny.
It sounds
mean, up in the last
think about it, it's kind of true. I consider myself a lazy animator because I do more comics than animation. Oops.
That's funny because that came up in the last stream, but I agree with it.
Yeah, I just remember it was like, you have, like, the Majors Fair. I don't know if they still do it, but we had, like, the Majors Fair about halfway through our very first quarter, and one of the professors kept saying that. It might have been Troy, it might have been Maurer. It was one of the intense professors.
Maurer. I think Maurer was the one who was there.
Yeah, so... I mean...
I think people you'll never meet will be writing majors. I never met any writing majors, and equestrian majors. They're a mystery.
Yeah.
Okay. I met a few writing majors, and oh my god. I have never met bigger hipsters. Like, some of them were great. Yeah. Some of them were great. But there was one, oh god. I'll have to tell the story, it's short. I was in my writing for short stories class, and on the very first day, the professor asked the class, he asked for someone to raise their hand and tell the definition of dramatic irony. And this guy sitting in the front of the room, like, raised his hand like this, and the professor calls on him, and he's like, a dead butterfly in an ashtray. And the professor was like, what? And then he said it exactly the same way again, and I lost it. Like, I was trying so hard not to laugh out loud, I almost passed out.
Good.
That was the first day of that class.
How did the professor say it again? He said what? Like, just directly?
Yeah, he was just kind of like, I don't remember exactly what his response was, but it was like, I'm sorry, what? And the guy said it he said it twice in the exact same cadence. He's like, a dead butterfly in an ashtray.
I love to think that that's just like all he was thinking about all day long until someone asked him the right question. Just like,
I just love when something finally gets too weird for the professors. Like, it happens all the time in CEQA. We pitch our scripts to these poor professors, and I've literally, like, watched them fold into themselves and say, oh my god, why are they all furries?
You can watch their entire lives flash before their eyes.
That's where my student criticism comes in, okay? Like, just as newcomers, new people coming in, just ignore those kids. Just move on. They're not being serious. Just don't take them seriously. You know, like there are some students who will just say the most ridiculous thing, like every day too. Like those people don't change. Like they just say the craziest things every single day they're in class, and it never makes any sense. But you just got to move on without them. The reason I say it's such a problem is because like they're taking up so much time. You know, like.
He's like, you said that, and now I have to think about it. That was 4 years ago, and I'm still thinking about that one line from that one class. Thank you, mysterious hipster.
That's so funny.
I also know that this is a bigger problem in the sequential department, but all the kids who come in and they love their animes, and they're going to be like, I'm going to go to Japan and be a mangaka. It's like, no, you're not.
They don't even want
gosh.
you. We've had some. I was in a what class? Goto's class. He had a guy that came in from Japan, from an anime studio, and the guy said, "We actually, like, not to be offensive, we don't want you. Like, we want to keep this within our culture, our heritage, and honestly, and he said this too." To be honest, a lot of Americans are just not even physically fit enough to be an anime animator. That's a big, crazy, insane thing. Again, it has nothing to do with It has nothing to do with you or being offensive to you. It's about production needs. And like when you can't draw fast enough because you're too fat, like I'm sorry, like you can't. It's a crazy thing.
Well, really, it's physically strenuous. And if you've ever looked at like a block schedule of a manga artist week, I mean, there are days that they don't budget time for sleeping. From what I remember, you can like, but you do get to sleep for a little bit longer the following night. It's mortifying.
Like it jumps into expectations.
Also, they make no money. They make $0.
Yeah,
they make like 17,000 a year. So you make less than a part-time job.
The anime industry in Japan is terrible, and I never wanted to be a part of it.
But like, I just think that whole anime thing, like, that's such a good point, because everyone comes in like, I'm going to be an anime star.
No, you're not.
Why? Like, there are so many other styles out there. Why did you just pick that one? Is it only because you watch TV late at night and that's what you like, or what? Like, think of yourself as an artist, not just like a imitator, Like, do something that is new, that is on your... I mean, there's nothing new. Everything's rehashes of other things, but why is everyone so on anime? Like,
because anime is cool. If there was still light in this room, you could see my giant anime poster that's taking up 90% of the wall.
There's not a problem with
anime.
anime.
It's a gateway into a lot of later art interest, because you either grow up with a lot of Disney films and you like that, or in addition, you really get into anime when you're in middle school and you get Katie Coop's How to Draw Manga book. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And you draw that dang ice cream cone head.
There's nothing wrong with any medium or any style, but it's only questionable when every single person likes the exact same thing. There's too many people that just like absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to offend anybody. Maybe that wasn't the place I needed to step in and talk about. But I just think you don't need to be. Like, I don't know. It's a little.
We're all very passionate people. But no, I will totally admit that I came into SCAD being one of those, like, I was not like, I'm gonna go to Japan and be the animes. I did not have pipe dreams like that, but I definitely, like, my art style was very anime, and like I went to SCAD with the mindset of I'm going to leave this school and no one is ever going to call my art anime again. That was my goal.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I hope that wasn't. I don't know. I hope that wasn't like me. I mean, I don't care what you draw. I'm just saying it's weird when everyone draws the same thing.
No, it's a fair point. I think a lot of people stay stuck on it for a while and they don't add anything of their own to it. So that's when it becomes a problem. We could do a whole live stream about being.
We should. I
actually think we should.
That sounds great.
You guys are coming to that one.
I will yell at your Skype for like 2 hours because I've been there. I've been that little anime-loving nerd.
You've been?
So glad.
You aren't right now, Star?
Shh. No, my lights aren't turned on. You can't see the posters. You can't see them.
Okay.
No, I want to.
I definitely gave up trying to draw manga when I was like 14.
What were you saying, Lisa?
Oh, I'm not sure if there are any more questions in the chat. It looks like there's been some discussion about the SCAD acceptance rate, some debate of whether it's like pretty high or not. I think it
We
is.
can talk about that. We can totally talk about
It's because it's high, but then like they have like like the freshman ratio to everyone else is crazy because like there's so many kids who go to SCAD and they think it's easy and then they drop out after the first quarter and then it's normal again.
Yep.
Mm.
No,
So-
I mean, my very first quarter of classes, like at least 70% of those people didn't make it through freshman year. My freshman year roommate dropped out.
It's
Um,
hard and they don't know that until they get there.
Or in my roommate's case, she was a fashion major, and she realized, is like, I don't need to go to a fancy art school for this. I can pay 10% of what I'm paying SCAD and go to a local college for what I'm trying to do. And so, and then she left.
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know about that.
I don't know where she ended up because I'm not friends with her on Facebook or anything.
Exactly.
But,
I think that there's a million ways to do a million things, but I also believe in accurate preparation.
Definitely.
Mm.
You know, if you wanna do something, you know, if you wanna go shovel your snow off your deck, you're gonna go outside first. You're not gonna say
This is an
I can
interesting
shovel the
analogy.
snow on the back. I
I'm
don't
from Florida,
know.
I don't understand.
It was the stupidest analogy I could possibly think of, but I think it makes sense. The basic thing is order. You know, cause effect, first step, second step. I think that if you want to do something big, and you got accepted into something big, then stay with it. You know, I don't know personally. I think you should finish something you start, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, though, is like a lot of kids get accepted, but then a lot of those kids might get accepted because of grades or something, and then they get in and they realize that art school is harder than high school ever could possibly be, and then they're not there for very long.
Oh, but that's a natural thing. That should happen.
Oh,
though,
yeah.
Because that's kind of
Oh,
what you go
yeah.
to school for. You go there to learn. If you even, if you hate it or like it, I mean,
Yeah.
we have a ton of people who transfer. I think that's a typical thing.
Yeah, I think the transfer students, because I took a lot of classes with transfer students, and they're the ones who are super dedicated because they're the ones who came from
Exactly.
different things, they're already working and they already knew what they were doing. So.
Exactly. I guess my point on that was kind of like if you like that example that you said was someone who wanted to do the same thing still, but just do it easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're taking. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of that's why I reacted that way. It's not because I think that if you start something, you have to finish it no matter what it is. It's not that. It's just like if you still want to do that thing, then why are you stopping now? Like why would you? Unless it's for money. Like I understand that. Some people can't.
Yeah,
continue
SCAD's
to SCAD.
expensive.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. But if that's the reason, I don't know. I guess it's I don't know. It's not something you should talk about. I guess, but
You should definitely take time to evaluate if what you're trying to move towards is going to make you happy, because what
Absolutely.
will make you happy when you start might not be the same as when you're in the middle or when you finish the process.
absolutely.
That kind of ties into this last question here that we'll take tonight. They're asking, what would you suggest for an art-curious person that's new to the idea of pursuing that as a goal? Should they take more steps before looking into SCAD or another art school?
I would do as much as you can on your own first. Like, learn a little bit of drawing. If you want to do animation, try to teach yourself like at least a little bit of Blender. See if it's something you're interested in, because especially if like art curious rather than like I am an artist and this is what I want to do, a lot of it, especially at the beginning, is like your internal motivation to like pull through and do something good. And if you're not 100% sure that that's something that you want to pursue, you like it is very easy to get crushed rather than inspired, especially with a crazy workload. And it'd be good to make sure you find something you're passionate about first and then try to learn more and grow off of it.
Yeah,
That's
like
the most
if
important thing.
you
Yeah.
want to be an animator, then you don't have to wait until you start school. You can animate now. You can get a pack of Post-it notes and make some little flip books. I've done that. I did that in
Exactly.
school.
You can even just do character designs or draw backgrounds or do traditional art, which is so important, like as foundations go.
Mhm.
So
Or if you
Especially-
want to get your feet wet but you have no idea how to do that, look up how to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like initiative. It's very important. Anyway, yeah, Catherine?
I feel like when we were in high school, this wasn't as fully established yet, but now, in the year that we are in, there are so many resources online of how to do this, how to do that, tutorials on every program you can think of. Like, you really can learn to do almost anything at home.
Yeah.
You really can, there's really no, unless you literally live under a rock and do not have internet, you can teach yourself anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least to a point. At least to a point where you feel confident enough that it's something you want to pursue. Like, even just in the, like, yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, there's always the benefit of having peers and having professors and having these people who are there to help you. But being self-taught can take you a pretty decent way, and that should be enough to help you figure out if that's really something that you want to pursue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because all the kids I know who went into SCAD being like, I kind of like art, they were the kids who dropped out freshman year. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I lied. There's going to be one more question. Rob, I'll answer your question another time about the Weeaboo Nation and starting out on anime. I am just going to have a panel discussion about that.
I will absolutely be on that panel.
I won't be
something
anywhere.
to talk to the sequential artists about.
That's what the sequential one will just turn into, I'm sure. I want to do that one next, fingers crossed. But our last question tonight, and then we'll wrap it up, is the hardest part of SCAD, would you say, is it the workload, time management, or navigating class to class?
Well, those first two are kind of the same thing.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of it, too... Yeah, go ahead, Star.
Well, I lost my train of thought. You go first.
Okay, well, one thing, I was talking to a friend at dinner the other day about this, because she was, like, I was thinking about doing art, and then I was thinking economics, so I went economics, but, like, we were laughing about how art school was so much harder than her, like, PhD in economics when she was looking at it, just because a lot of what you do in your art school and animation is so subjective, whereas, like, if you're taking an engineering class or a math class, you know,
Two plus two is always going to be 4.
2 plus 2 is always going to be 4. There's always an answer to the problem. With SCAD and art classes and animation, you're done when you feel like you're done. And with 10 weeks in a quarter and maybe like 8 projects within those 10 weeks, you're never going to feel like you're done. So a lot of it is you trying to put things out and to a point where you feel like it's a professional level, it's a level that your professors would appreciate, at the same time as like your internal, this is not good enough, I'm going to scrap everything and start over.
Which is a problem that most
which happens
have.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's something that a lot of artists, I would say most
so a lot of
artists
it too. So like even in like your basic like drawing classes, it's hard to like pinpoint like this is the finish line rather than like this is the deadline. So it's a lot of things with that. That's like even aside from work and time management, it's more of like you not ever being at whatever you perceive the finish line to be, or you always seeing something you can change, which that's what keeps you up at 2 a.m. working on a project.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like, when it comes to the hardest thing about SCAD is the fact that it's just a very, very great art school. I mean, your stuff is subjective. Like, it's done when you say it's done. You know, like, it's not just like a paper where you're researching whatever. I mean, it's like it is done only when you feel like it is, and that's never like that. It never really reaches that point, like you guys said. But yeah, the workload and time management are the same thing, and it's the biggest problem. And I think that's so telling of how it prepares you for the real world, because in the real world the deadline is never the actual completed time. Like, deadlines are always way earlier than what is necessary to like turn around something that you feel is good. I think it's important. I'm almost like happy that this is all unanimously, like, we all agree that this is the hardest part, because it's the most crucial part. You know, you have to learn what can I sacrifice, what can I not sacrifice on a project. You have to learn what's important, what's not, and that's just good design. You know, you become economic with your designs based on the timeline you have. You know, I think that's just, I think that the hardest part about SCAD is also the whole reason you go. You know, time management and work. You got to figure out what you can handle, what you can do, and what's needed. You know, and sometimes when you get the right amount of things or the right things together and you put priority on those things, like the right combination of things you put priority on sometimes become the perfect project. You know, that becomes like the perfect, like, you know,
client grabbing whatever for your reel. You know, I don't know. It's just like, I think the hardest part about it is the best, and I'm actually really happy that we're ending on that. Like, that's awesome. Like, that it's supposed to be that way. You know, you're supposed to be acclimated to things that you've never done before.
It manufactures a work ethic, definitely. It makes you want to be more efficient so that you can take on more things and do them better and also faster. And it teaches you time management, because if you don't learn time management, if you don't learn how to be efficient, if you don't learn how to have that work ethic, you will drown in the work. It's all about learning how to keep your head above water, and that will service you so well when you actually get into the industry. Because it's
I will say, it definitely gave me a deep appreciation of having an 8-to-5 job where I don't have to take it home with me and keep working on it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that so much.
Yeah.
Say it again for the people in back.
40 hours a week and no more is pretty great.
And then you can work on your own stuff for fun.
Webcomic, yay!
Oh, yes.
I'm so excited for that. Like, I just love that I keep hearing this from everybody. Like, I keep hearing from everyone that's left, you're going to have so much time. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait to just to be able to, like, hang out with my wife and possible dog and just draw whatever I want, like, after 5 p.m., you know? Like, I'm so ready for that.
Don't get me wrong, there are going to be late nights, but it's not like every night at SCAD was.
Yeah.
Because that was like 7 days a week for me.
And the best part is that after you graduate, drawing for fun comes back.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. That's like I'm so ready for that. Like, I don't know. I'm just like I'm so prepared, mentally prepared for that step and that place where I can finally
You're
get
in the
back
home stretch. You can do it. 3 more weeks, right? We're rooting for you. Well, I think that's all the time that we have tonight, but thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thank you,
guys
Lisa.
are full of so much wisdom, and I'm glad that even though I asked the same questions to the other group, you guys have some different perspectives on everything. I won't say the answers are entirely different, but like we took it in so many other different directions. It was really interesting.
Well, we got to talk about the Troy and Weber games.
We did.
Monty.
Yes. So, thank you all who tuned in tonight. Thanks for asking us some questions in the chat and all that. You have the sequential one to look forward to next, I think. I'm going to round up my favorite costume booze, and we'll talk to you about drawing comics forever. So I think I'm going to arrange that sometime within the next week or so. You guys can watch that, and I think that's it for tonight. So thanks for watching these. Let me know in the comments what else you guys want to see next. So
Thanks for
have a good one.
Thank you so much.
inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you.